Well, we hear this a lot about impending doom and the collapse of this non-free market, this rigged system. Top economic advisors forecast war and unrest. So we've heard this many a times. But it goes on here and it says here, and actually this is what they say, we are already at war in numerous countries all over the world, but top economic advisors warn that economic factors could lead to a new world war. So Kyle Bass writes that trillions of dollars of debt will be restructured and millions of financially prudent savers will lose large percentages of their real purchasing power at the wrong time of their lives. So it says, again, the world will not end, but the social fabric of the nations will be stretched and in some cases torn. Sadly, looking back through economic history, all too often war is the manifestation of simple economic entropy played to its logical conclusion. We believe that war is an inevitable consequence of the current global economic situation. So and they have like a little chart here. You can go and check it out. I acted like a dictator to bring in the euro. Helmut Kohl, Germany's former chancellor, admitted that he acted like a dictator to bring the single currency to the country. Otherwise, he would have lost had he held a referendum. So this is an interview conducted for a journalist's PhD thesis. So it goes on here and it says that he would have lost any popular vote on the euro by an overwhelming majority. Yeah, speaking of war, it says here Mr. Kohl describes adopting the euro as an emblem of the European project, which he said had prevented war on the continent. In the interview, he said if a chancellor is trying to push something through, he must be a man of power, and if he's smart, he knows when the time is right. In one case, the euro, I was like a dictator. The euro is a synonym for Europe. Europe, for the first time, has no more war. How the looming Bitcoin crash will be exploited by globalists to outlaw decentralized cryptocurrencies. It says here that there's a bigger agenda happening with Bitcoin that needs to be publicly stated, and this goes far beyond the issue of financial harm that will be caused when the Bitcoin bubble finally implodes. It says central banks hate Bitcoin. They hate it because it doesn't allow them to loot bank accounts like Cyprus, control the movement of capital around the globe. They say it threatens to the foundation of monetary control that underlies all corrupt governments of the world. As such, Bitcoin is a huge threat to the status quo, making it an obvious target for the globalists to attempt to destroy. And the most recent news on this little crash here is that it's bounced back. So Bitcoin bounces back after crashing nearly 60% from April 10th, 5:31 p.m. It staged an impressive comeback Wednesday after crashing nearly 60% earlier to hit a low around $105, erasing more than half of its losses. Billions of pounds of quantitative easing unlikely to cause inflation, says IMF. Central banks can unleash billions of pounds more quantitative easing with little threat of stoking inflation, according to analysts by the IMF. Actually, she just got her house or her office raided recently. But they're able to push all kinds of buttons and turn dials, like I said, to keep their rigged money laundering scheme going for as long as they want. My website is ggnonline.com, Global Government News. I have a poll up here. Do you feel the mainstream media's coverage of North Korea is a diversion from something else? So far, 66% say yes. If you'd like to donate, you can do it on this website. Also, I got new videos up there as well, so they're back up and running. Also, I do have like a news archive going back all the way to 2009, in case you can't find them on YouTube. On YouTube, my channels are ddarko2012 and ddarko2013. So, all right, going to continue here with the economy, and the second video we'll get into some eugenics, social engineering. Obama's real unemployment rate is 14.7% and a recession's on the way. So we covered this already. This is from Forbes. But the real unemployment is what? Well, it's around, 20%? 23%. So just wanted to include this because I was saying when it said 14%, I threw out that number about 20 to 25%. And this is mainstream media saying this. So you know it's pretty bad when they're telling you twice the number that the White House or the Bureau of Labor Statistics is telling you. So links will be posted in YouTube's video description if you'd like to check them out. Obama calls for a cigarette tax hike of 94 cents a pack. Most of you probably remember back in 2008 when the wealth consolidation operation known as the Recession was taking place. It was a good reason for the Federal Reserve to get a nice power grab and other things too. The whole thing with austerity. But one of the things was back in 2008 there was a big jump in cigarette tax. So they say the Obama approach is similar to the one that Congress took in 2008. They more than doubled the federal cigarette tax from 39 cents to $1 a pack to help pay for the $32 billion expansion of state children's health insurance program. So the federal excise tax on tobacco products would nearly double if Congress approves the proposed budget. The tax on tobacco products would nearly double if Congress approves it. Obama's proposed budget was submitted formally on Wednesday. Says here they propose raising the tax on cigarettes by 94 cents a pack, up from $1 currently. It would be a similar increase on most other tobacco products as well. So it goes on here. It says that the increased tax revenue is to expand access to free pre-kindergarten education, preschoolers. See, this is why they stress education. You can call it communist or you can call it whatever you want, but they want to get your kids into their indoctrination or brainwashing camps. So, that's why they go younger and younger. But when you go down here, it says the biggest argument against the tax is that it will fund early childhood brainwashing on the backs of the poor. So most of the things are actually on the backs of middle-class people. Not only is the tax non-progressive, it does not go up. It does not go up the more money one makes, but a higher percent of smokers are middle or low income. According to CNN, the median household income for a smoker in 2011 was $27,000 compared to $45,000 for non-smokers. Nearly half of all smokers had a household income of less than $25,000 a year. Meanwhile, under 15% of smokers had a household income of over $75,000. The fact is they really don't care. Like the South Park episode, some people just want to have a cigarette when they're done working. But, they don't care, they'll just try to take everything that they could possibly take from you. IRS to monitor Facebook and Twitter for tax cheats. This is not a new story. This was actually out a year or two ago. It says here that the IRS and new reports brought to light by whatever suggest that this tax filing season, the IRS may be monitoring social media for any clues of tax cheats. So it goes on, it says IRS will be checking into individual Facebook and Twitter accounts for basically anything that's out of the ordinary. They'll be monitoring if a tax form raises a red flag. If someone is unclear to what extent it will be capable of delving into social media accounts. Tax dodgers nabbed using Google Street View. Some 100 Lithuanian homeowners, 30 construction companies identified. As soon as Google Maps Street View was rolled out, Lithuania earlier this year, tax authorities were ready. Sitting in the comfort of their own offices, inspectors used the free internet program for a virtual cruise around the streets of some of the Baltic countries' big cities, uncovering dozens of alleged tax violations involving housing construction and property sales. In Greece, authorities have been using satellite imagery to locate undeclared swimming pools in wealthy neighborhoods. Also in Britain, tax officials have revealed that they are using web crawling software to trawl auction websites for undeclared sales. Then you have Putin of Russia offers 3-month offshore-tax-cheat amnesty. There can be no untouchables. This is the nationalization of the elite, is how one ex-Kremlinite described Putin's new policy. For years, the elite saw Russia as their hunting ground. They keep their money and live somewhere else, but now Putin has moved to inject some moral fiber into the country's top-level bureaucrats and state employees by giving them a 3-month deadline to close their foreign bank accounts. Social Security office forces 87-year-old blind woman to sing for her $22 check. It's pretty crazy. DHS has had exercises in front of these Social Security Administration offices where you get your checks from. For the future. So when people go to collect and there's nothing there to collect, they'll have militarized police and DHS agents and stuff, federal agents there to deal with unruly unrest. An 87-year-old partially blind woman in South Africa says that she was humiliated when a local welfare office forced her to sing before receiving her Social Security check. So it says here, according to the witness, says that he would lodge a complaint because the Social Security agency official in Newcastle refused to hand over her $22 old age pension check to his mother unless she sang into a public address microphone. The frail woman eventually agreed to sing Happy Birthday. Her humiliating performance was on the big screens in the building, and staff members found it funny, and no one tried to help her. So it says, I'm enraged that officials can act this way. To make matters worse, this was a female official who did it to her. The tunnel people that live under the streets of America. It says here, did you know that there are thousands upon thousands of homeless people that are living underground beneath the streets of major U.S. cities? they said it's happening all around the country. It says here, as the economy crumbles, poverty in the U.S. is exploding, and so is homelessness. In addition to thousands of tunnel people living under the streets, there are also thousands of people living in tent cities. I've covered that before out in New England. There are tens of thousands that are living in their vehicles, and there are more than 1 million public school children that do not have a home to go back to at night. So, it says here, when they heard that there was homeless people living in a network of underground tunnels beneath the streets of Kansas City, I was absolutely stunned. They have relatives that live in the area, and I never thought of Kansas City as one of the more troubled cities in the country. But according to the Daily Mail, police recently discovered a network of tunnels under the city that people have been living in. Below the streets, there are deep underground tunnels. A group of vagrant homeless people lived in camps. The so-called homeless camps had now been uncovered by the police, who then evicted the residents because of the unsafe environment. See? That's the type of logic where they imprison you, and then you on a hunger strike, and then they force feed you, you know? See, now they care about your safety while you're living, if you're living in a cardboard box, whatever, and you can't be found, they don't care. But, once it's discovered that you're living somewhere that you're not supposed to be and you're not on the grid, then they come for you. They said that these people were living in squalor while piles of garbage and dirty diapers left around wooded areas. It says the saddest part is the fact that authorities found dirty diapers in the areas near these tunnels. That must mean that babies were being raised in that kind of environment. Says either they have to go homeless or go to the homeless shelters, or they have to try to eke out an existence on their own any way that they can. It says the homeless people who live down here are called mold people. They do not, as many believe, exist in a separate, organized underground society. It's more of a solitary existence in a loose-knit community of secretive, hard-luck individuals. Growing up near traffic boosts kids' cancer risk. Study indicates that kids suffer from living near exhaust. So they say it's a significant difference for those that do live near roads and traffic. They say the risk rises as much as 17% for one type of cancer. Then we have this: police arrest suspect in Utah cabin burglaries. We've already covered this before, talking about elusive survivalist, and this was on April 3rd. It said the cops already knew about him. He's dubbed the Mountain Man. I saw this article from today: Maine hermit living in wild for 27 years arrested. Why is it all of a sudden that they're going after these survivalist type people? They're saying that they're busted in camps and stuff. Another trend that I'm noticing too is the quote white supremacists or neo-Nazi groups in prisons. Stories like that coming out. Neo-Nazi inmates talking via secret code, says report. German authorities discover far-right network. So it says here they've been able to communicate with their groups and perhaps help them recruit through a secret code passed along in letters and magazine advertisements. And when an Australian Prime Minister, Gillard, visited China, she was talking about an Asian century. The Asian century will also involve difficult adjustments, and high dollar is a clear example of this. It is painful to many sectors, but like Germany under the towering Deutschmark in the days before the euro, a high currency need not be a barrier to making products and services of such quality to our partners that still want to buy them. So complete crap, right? Manager of South Pacific, Mr. Lee's Greater Hong Kong franchise, says that kids should start learning Mandarin. From the New Zealand Herald, Prime Minister John Key wants more students to consider learning Mandarin. It says here that they want the foreign language to be compulsory at school, although majority don't prefer it. Chinese innovations to benefit the world, says Bill Gates. And what can they offer? Well, he represents globalists going there to tell them, well, you're going to be now that you're like us, the U.S., we gotta do something about population reduction. One-child policies aren't enough. We see this potential, this technology, right? For example, in vaccines, where China is quickly becoming a leader. So yeah, and it goes in here and starts talking about low-cost vaccines for things like polio, like on Pakistan, where they don't want those people coming in their places and actually start shooting or beating up or basically telling these polio vaccinators to leave. H7N9 bird flu, U.S. biological attack, says Chinese military official. Says the new strain of bird flu, which has hit the country, has not been previously seen in humans, as a biological attack launched by the United States against the people of China. Says it's an attempt to destabilize the Asian country. At least 9 people have died. It says here that they said that the SARS outbreak in 2003 was also an American plot, since at the time America was fighting in Iraq and feared that China would take advantage of the opportunity to take other actions. They said it's a psychological weapon used by the U.S. against China. It says now they're using the same old trick. They said China should have learned its lesson and should calmly deal with the problem. Thank you.